In Gaza, a deadly attack on a UN school kills 10 and leaves many more wounded. We'll have live reports from Tel Aviv and Gaza with in-depth coverage on the humanitarian efforts that are in place. And as the Ebola virus outbreak in West Africa spreads, more pledges of international aid follow. How is the U.S. planning to help? And the overall impact the virus is having on Africa.
Live from Washington, this is CCTV News.
Welcome to CCTV America, everyone. I'm Sean Cadlips. We begin in China's Yunnan province, where authorities report at least 357 have died, and many still missing in a powerful earthquake. The 6.5 magnitude earthquake jolted Ludian County of Jiaodong City. More than 2,500 soldiers have been deployed to join the disaster relief operation. Meanwhile, more than 1,800 are injured, and 30,000 houses have been damaged. And most traffic, electricity, and telecommunications have been cut off in the area. We'll have more on this. Turning to the latest in the Israeli-Gaza conflict, at least 10 people were killed in a strike near a UN-run school. The attack in Rafah hit near the entrance of the facility where thousands of Palestinians were being sheltered. This is the second Israeli strike on a school in less than a week. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon is calling the latest violence a moral outrage and a criminal act. For full coverage of the ongoing situation, we turn to CCTV's Roy Ruttenberg in Tel Aviv with the latest from Israel and CCTV's Noor Hazarin in Gaza. We're going to begin in Tel Aviv. Roy?
Well, the UN has condemned Sunday's attack on that school in Rafah, and we should note that one of the people that was killed was a UN staffer for UNRWA. That's the UN agency for the Palestinians there in Gaza. They administer several of those schools and provide for the well-being of the people, specifically those taking shelter, safety in their schools there. Also, the U.S. has expressed its outrage. The State Department saying it is appalled by the strike on or near that school. Israel says it was going after three militants who were on a motorbike at the time. The U.S. saying suspicion of militants doesn't justify striking when there could be such a heavy loss of civilians. We understand that several members of the Ali Ghul family were among those killed, including a baby who was just 20 days old, a baby born into this conflict, dying also in this conflict. And the fighting continued in Rafah on Sunday, and not just there, but there were also additional strikes in the more densely populated area of Gaza City. We understand that 2 high-rises were struck by Israeli shelling as one. The death toll continuing on Sunday, despite suggestions that there might be a lull in fighting, and as we know, a Palestinian delegation off in Cairo discussing a possible ceasefire. There were also additional rockets fired from Gaza to Israel. Israel saying about 55 rockets fired all day on Sunday.
Well, Roy, focusing on Israel, there was, of course, a large funeral in Israel on Sunday as well for the soldier who had been feared abducted, then confirmed dead. What is the impact, firstly, the emotional impact of this service, and secondly, is it going to have any kind of effect that spills over into more violence in that region?
Indeed, thousands of people attending the funeral for the second lieutenant Hadar Golden, as you mentioned, first feared abducted, then confirmed dead. The Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu speaking to Golden's father before the funeral, calling his son a hero of the country. And this is some of the similar sentiment that we heard eulogized at his funeral by his siblings, by his father, and by his fiancée. Many people in the country watched live pictures of that funeral and are outraged and feel that Hamas needs to be dealt with, finished off entirely, and that the military should continue its operations. But we do know that for the most part, we saw on Sunday additional troops and tanks, ground troops from in Gaza leaving back to the Israeli side of the border. The Israeli military qualifying that, saying that it's not a withdrawal, but rather a, quote, redeployment of the troops back to their bases on the Israeli side of the border. The Israeli military spokesman saying that the military maintains a preparedness to strike on Hamas militants when and if necessary. And Israel's prime minister says that the operation will continue until